this morning by Gloria Ballasting. Gloria, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Now, let's get to it. You live in Kaduna State, and you've observed, the happenings in the state over time. You're state governor. After the president made his speech, a statewide broadcast on Thursday, Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State also made a counter statement just yesterday as well. He also instructed MDAs in Kaduna State to accept the old 1,000 naira and 500 naira notes. What do you make of this? What do you make of this back and forth, especially considering the fact that the APC is supposed to be one party, the president and the subnationals, and what is the rule of law? What should supersede now? Would it be the rule of law or national interest? Because it seems like that's the argument that we've seen, on both sides. For those who argue for the president saying, "Oh, national interest should supersede whatever other interest is there," and there's those who argue on the side of the governor say the Supreme Court and the rule of law should prevail over every other order. I would love to pick your thoughts on some of these issues, starting with what's happening in Kaduna State. By the way, are Kaduna people accepting the old naira notes, seeing the fact that the governor has instructed them to continue to transact with the old 500 and 1,000 naira notes?
Well, starting from the last question, the people in Kaduna State are not accepting the naira notes that the governor has instructed, because they too have seen the governor for who he is, and they know he doesn't have those powers. The power for currency and coinage and legal tender is a prerogative of the presidency and the Central Bank of Nigeria, and that's why it's under the exclusive legislative list. It is in fact the 15th item on the exclusive legislative list in the Constitution. So it is not the prerogative of a governor or governors to determine what currency and coinage and legal tender will be used. And when they exercise such powers that they do not have, what they do is that they are levying a situation where they want to intimidate or overall the president, which borders on treason. And so this is an action that now comes up what Section 308 could, bring up. Because if it were just someone who had no immunity, at this point in time, he should be taken in for questioning because he doesn't have those powers. But it is not the first time that Governor Nasir El-Rufai is exercising powers that he does not have. 2 years ago, he prescribed work on Friday, and since then, Kaduna State residents, especially in the public sector, have not been going to work on Fridays. And that's not a power that a governor can exercise, because again, it is under the exclusive legislative list, and it is the 51 item on that list. And the inability for people in position to know where their powers lie and what the extent of their powers should be and where they shouldn't exceed is one of the challenges that we see under the present administration. Hopefully, this now presents a situation where the issue of Section 308 can be challenged. To what extent can immunity be given to a holder of office who acts outside the powers, the constitutional powers that the office accords him? And I hope that this opportunity will be taken by the Nigerian state, because it is vital for our democracy.
With what you've just established now, many people have mentioned, treason and all that. Now, the situation where, there's a national government and then the subnational government assumes certain powers, like you've tried to, explain. Does it mean that there is a lacuna in the Constitution that has been exploited, or that there is the Constitution does not consider this as something that can happen, and then also provides some level of punishment for this? Because if you mention that the governor has immunity based on Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution, then it means that the governors can do whatever they want, and the law has no power over them.
I would state, and I know I had this conversation with Senator Egba sometime back in Abuja. My understanding of that section is that when a person, a public office holder, whether he's the president or vice president, the governor or the deputy governor, who are the people granted immunity under Section 308, the first thing that a president, a vice president, a governor or deputy governor, the first thing they do before they go into the office is they take the oath of allegiance that they will uphold the Constitution. And having taken that oath, that becomes the overriding oath, which now means that when they break the oath of upholding the Constitution, my interpretation of what Section 308 is that 308 cannot avail them having failed to uphold the Constitution. So the immunity should now be granted when you have upheld the Constitution and you have acted in accordance to the law and in good faith. But in a situation like this, which is treasonable, and people are likely to suffer, and public security is threatened, then I believe that Section 308 should not avail anyone. The laws of treason are clear. The extent of powers of governors have been defined. The extent of powers of the presidency have been defined. Indeed, democracy separates the powers of the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. And even the judiciary cannot legislate on issues that are executive issues. So powers have been defined, and that is the beauty of democracy, that every part of the government should know where their powers begin and where they end. So in a situation like this, the Constitution has contemplated it, the laws have contemplated it, but it is now a situation where the different machineries of government need to be triggered for this issue to be addressed. I should add, though, that there has been this desperation by politicians, and I have heard people pleading with the politicians, telling them to remember that we have a country after the election. This desperation that has caused these governors to carry out this treasonable act is most unfortunate. But again, this is not the first time that El-Rufai would do this. In the last election in 2019, a few days to the first election that should have been held, you would recall that it was postponed. He came out and he mentioned that 66 Fulanis were killed in Kajuru. And the commissioner of police then came out and countered it because that didn't happen. But he led people and went and pointed at mud pits and said that was what had happened. Now, essentially, a governor is supposed to be the one who should be interested in public peace. But in 2019, as it is in 2023, he is the one who is inciting public anarchy. And nobody should have the luxury of feeling like they are above the law. There is the concept of equality before the law. Nobody should be treated above it, and nobody should be treated beneath it.
Now, let's talk about the aspect of national interest and the interest of the masses of Nigerians. So the governors say they're fighting for the interest of Nigerians. The president also says this is going to be of a greater good at the end of the day for Nigerians. At this point, who do you think is actually about the interest of Nigerians?
You know, again, the governor of Kaduna State has been all about, this is in the interest of the masses. Anybody who has known Nasir El-Rufai, whether as minister of the FCT or as governor of Kaduna State, where he is now presiding and will leave in a few days, would know that the interest of the masses has never been at the center of what he does. He's essentially an elitist at heart. And there are the facts to show for it. The markets in Kaduna State were demolished. In fact, during COVID, the traders in the market were not allowed access into the market to even take out their goods. As a result, they suffered heavy losses. Then the markets were demolished, and then they rebuilt the markets and put the fee at such a high fee that many of them cannot afford. So if you go to Kaduna State now, many of those stores are empty because they cannot afford it. And the governor has taken loans, they have taken foreign loans to build this market. Then under the governor, over 70,000 civil servants were sacked out of jobs. Over 30,000 teachers were sacked out of jobs. He put up a verification exercise that they continue to do over and over again. And about 5 years ago, some teachers who went for verification exercise in Zaria were killed. There was a bombing that took place and they were killed just trying to do a verification, the results of which were not used. When you look at the educational sector, it is under the governorship of Kaduna State, of Nasir El-Rufai, that there was over 200% increase in the school fees. And the schools are schools where many of the people who cannot afford fees in private universities attend. The Kaduna State University, the Nuhu Bamali Polytechnic College of Education, Shehu Idris College of Health Sciences, and the Kaduna State College of Nursing and Midwifery. The increase in school fees was about 200%. So those who were paying at about 24,000, 26,000, the increase was 150,000. For courses like medicine, the school fees moved up to 500,000. Now, I hear people argue in favor of the governor that, well, the cost of education is high. But this is the same governor who has boasted that they have been able to increase their internal revenue generation in 3 years up to 91.2 billion. So if you have been able to raise your IDR to that point, then where are you putting the money to? Again, under Nasir El-Rufai, many people were demolished. They were not demolished in pursuance to court orders. He would just sit down and decide on places to demolish. And unfortunately, the Legislative House couldn't do much. But we also even see that people in his own party also suffered because they raised objections as to what he was doing and how he was treating the state as though it was a private estate of an emperor. And Senator Osman Hunkuyi's house was demolished and was converted into a park. You have the former Attorney General of Katsina State, Malam Inua Abdul Kadir, whose house was also demolished. And this man was the former zonal chairman of APC, the party that El-Rufai is. And now you can see that the president is the president who was voted under the platform of APC. But the same governor now is going against and countermanding the directives of the president and deciding that he wants a different directive and that the people in his state should take a different route. So it is not true that he is doing this in favor of the masses. There are political intonations to this, and he himself said in the broadcast that this is the action that the president took was against his candidate Bola Tinubu. And the question is, if that is the situation, how will he then say that he's using the masses? So he just wants to use it as a ploy and convert the masses as his foot soldiers. But the people in Kaduna State are not buying it because they are no longer accepting the old notes. Indeed, the banks themselves are not accepting these old notes in consonance with the directive of the CBN and the president.
Now, let's go back a little before we talk about, the fact that the governors had threatened, some of the governors had threatened to withdraw the CFO of, banks that wouldn't accept the old notes. That also is, a matter, that should be looked at under the law. Do they have the rights? What rights do they have to revoke licenses of people who are, obeying the CBN, which is the regulator of the banking industry, as well as the orders of the president? Would they, if they withdraw the licenses or the CFO of these banks, would they be acting under the law?
No, they will not. Thankfully, governance is a continuum. this whole parade and charade is going to end in less than 100 days from now, because the present administration will go. And I will call on banks not to get intimidated by these directives of governors. Thankfully, when these days are over, their immunity will be fully stripped. But like I said, even now, there is a need to test whether Section 308 is absolute and whether that section can override public peace and public security. So if the governors are threatening that they are going to receive the CFOs of banks and are not collecting these notes, then you see it will be in furtherance to the treasonable actions that they have taken. And I think that this provides an opportunity for the law to speak in the full majesty of what it is.
Let's talk about Section 308 now. So Section 308 1 says, notwithstanding anything to the contrary in this Constitution, but subject to subsection 2 of this Section A, no civil or criminal proceedings shall be instituted or continued against the person to whom this section applies during his period of office. B, a person to whom this section applies shall not be arrested or imprisoned during that period, either in pursuance of the process of any court or otherwise. And C, no process of any court requiring or compelling the appearance of a person to whom this section applies shall be applied or issued. Applied for or issued. Then it goes on to say, provided that in ascertaining whether any period of limitation has expired for the purpose of any proceedings against the person to whom this section applies, no account shall be taken of this period of office. Section 2 says, the provisions of subsection 1 of this, or subsection 2, right? The provisions of the subsection 1 of this section shall not apply to civil proceedings against the person to whom this section applies in his office capacity, or to civil or criminal proceedings in which such a person is only a nominal party. With all of this, and then it goes on to subsection 3, these sections apply to a person holding the office of president or vice president, governor or deputy governor, and the reference in this section 2, period of office, is a reference to the period during which the person holding office or such office is required to perform the functions of the office. Now, looking at this, do you think that we haven't been looking at the right places when we talk about constitutional reforms? Shouldn't the National Assembly be trying to get these sections of the law amended? Every year we go, there's several amendments to the Constitution, but then we haven't been able to amend this part of the law. Does it mean that we are not looking in the right direction to amend our laws to be able to have, at least certain clauses that allows for governors and deputies and even people who this section covers to be tried? Because if we're saying that a person, the law or the rule of law is supreme, and then these people cannot be tried, then it really does not. Then there's no rule of law, if you ask me.
So the section allows them to be tried and to be charged to court in their official capacity, but not in their personal capacity until the immunity is stripped off. And what this means that even now, when they are charged in their official capacity, they can be brought in their personal capacity as necessary parties the very moment that their immunity drops. So it is not the case that all of this is lost in the sense that they cannot be held accountable. The trouble, though, is that if they acted in their official capacities, then the liabilities will also be official. And what that means is that it will be double jeopardy for taxpayers whose taxes will be used to pay the damages for these actions that have been taken. However, when they come in their personal capacity, then the liability becomes personal. So it will not be, for instance, the governor of Kaduna State, it will be against Nasser Ahmed El-Rufai. Now, if there is a case that is being brought before the court, this occupiers of office in their personal capacity can later on be brought as necessary parties the moment that they drop immunity. So until this, the absoluteness of Section 308 is reviewed, there are other ways in which these occupiers of these offices can be brought to book, and Nigerians need to exploit it.
What are these ways? I know that you've been in court with the governors before, with the governor of Kaduna State before. What are these ways that the people can actually get, redress when they have issues with the governor?
So, having for those who may have obtained judgment, that the judgment itself can serve as evidence when they want to proceed against them personally to show that these were actions that were not carried out, within official bounds or constitutional mandates. But that is for those who want to proceed against them personally and they have judgment at the moment. But for those who want to, at the moment, proceed against them in their official capacity, they can still do so. So it will be against the governor of Kaduna State or the deputy governor of Kaduna State or any of the states or the president or the vice president. And that will be in their official capacity. And once they leave on the 29th of May, they can then be charged in their personal capacity.
Well, the Supreme Court would be convening on Wednesday to hear the rest of this. Do you think that the president's pronouncement on Thursday would affect the judgment or the ruling of the Supreme Court on Wednesday?
Well, it's difficult to preempt the court, but I hope that when the court reconvenes, the apex court, one of the things that it would do that will be helpful to democracy is to be able to define the extent of its own powers, the extent of judicial powers, the extent of executive powers, the extent of legislative powers, and the need for it to not have an overlap in the interest of democracy. So I wouldn't know how the laws would swing on when the court reconvenes, but the laws are supreme. And we will just be hopeful that the spirit of the laws and not the letters will preside.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Gloria Balasin, Esquire. Appreciate you talking with us this morning. We'd have to let you go now so you can, attend to other things. Thank you very much for your thoughts on the program.
Thank you so much and have a good day.
You too, have an amazing day. And well, the conversation continues. We'll be talking more in a bit. Keep it with us on your radio experience. You can count on. We're bringing some of our friends from the advocacy movement to share with us what their thoughts are on this issue, especially pertaining to young people who may be used within this period as we approach the 2023 elections. I'll bring in a call in now before we switch gear and get to hear from you. 09073530044 and 09087668888. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Yanato.
Good morning, Okichuku. Good to have you.
Thank you. Please, I want to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Now that El-Rufai has disobeyed the president and he have warned the bank that if anyone did not collect the old naira notes, that he will revoke their license. So what will happen now if El-Rufai revoke their license? So now the banks will be shut down and nobody will do anything. Those people will lose their business, lose their work. And we say we have a president that El-Rufai will be at Kaduna State running his own president. You see, there's a confusion in this country. So I'm asking this question.
Okay, Chico, we lost connection there. Don't worry, I'll get you someone who can answer those questions. But we know what it is. We know that the governors are just, threatening what they can really do because, what basis? You heard the lawyer. They don't really have the grounds to do that because, there's a regulator that issues the precedent and it's the executive preserve. It's in the executive legislative list, the issues of legal tender, currency, and coinage. So, the governors they don't have jurisdiction or control over that. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Henacho.
Good morning.
My name is Usman calling from Guarimpa.
Usman from Guarimpa, good to have you.
Yeah, first of all, let me appreciate your guest. As if she has said it all against this what we are talking about. Now, concerning this issue of whether obeying court or what have you, I must say that at the long run, it is all the masses that will suffer it. And for the question of I will tell you blind because I'm from Kaduna State. El-Rufai is not, let me say, sympathizer of the masses, not only in a single day that he is the lover of the masses, especially in Kaduna State, with regards to his policies and what have you. But now, looking at the way that he has an interest, political interest, whether at the presidential or at the state or at the local level. So now all these governors at the long run, they were the ones that will lose because we are law-abiding citizens. We will go by the presidential order so that things will go by. And when you look at what is now, they say that monkey hand resemble human being on. We see that now some governors we are promoting that old naira note and sharing to their supporters. So if we see all what Mr. President is heading to, so now the truth will come out when it comes to 2023. And whoever has the mandate of the people, let him go and sell himself freely. And for those voters that were waiting to at least get money to vote, I think we have solved that problem because our democracy is very paramount and we all love this democracy. So whoever wants to undermine democracy, especially the governor Nasir El-Rufai, will be tried on when he left that office on the 29th May. Because now we are talking about immunity. And that immunity didn't say that he cannot be tried. But he can be, let me say, tried when he leaves that office. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you calling in. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my friends. How are you?
I'm very well. Good to have you, Mayowa.
Thank you. Yes. I don't know how people are putting things together. If there is any government or individual in Nigeria today that is wrong on this whole issue, it's the federal government that is wrong. Because on what ground would the governors be prosecuted or whatever action that the federal government wants to carry out, on what ground would they be doing that? Is it on the ground of law or the position of Supreme Court? If the highest court in the land has given an order, and the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria or the FGM refused to comply, and the governors stood by the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, then on what ground would the federal government be challenging them? The federal government can only wait until that order is vacated. If El-Rufai say all the people, the banks in their stage must continue to recognize and receive the old naira notes, they are saying that from the point of law and the pronouncement of Supreme Court. And I don't know where that would be illegitimate. And if you say, if you don't do that, I'm going to revoke your license. What they are saying, they are not talking about the license of operation of banks. They will revoke the 3 or 4 of the land where they put their structure. That is not the reason. There is nothing difficult in this thing. Even elementary law, somebody will understand it.
All right, Mayowa, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for your thoughts on the program. The conversation continues. Keep it with us.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
No AC? No problem. We're cooling you down with the freshest hits.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Yangabi, only 100 naira, you enter. Everybody can win, if you win your bid.
You get what you want buy, but you don't get money? Microwave, TV, I mean you want pay never bill. Download Yangabi from any online store. With 100 naira, fund your wallet. Choose a plan for your gate pass. Start spinning and winning. The player with the highest number wins the bid. Anything when you want buy, you can bid it and win it. Yangabi, Nigeria's online marketplace.
You can call us on 091 3000 2014 091 3000 2014.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja. Are you ready for this?
Keep that frequency clear.
We're live. I woke up with a Eagles FM 102.3 Abuja.
Thank you again for staying with us. This is Eagles 102.3, your radio experience you can count on, and you're on to Eagles Outlook. On Eagles Outlook this morning, we're looking at the cash crunch, the situation that has brought many Nigerians to a point of what people have referred to as suffering. And, we need to understand the rights of individuals and understand the situation from all angles, looking at the legal perspective. My guest earlier, helped us understand what the position is, especially as regards to, personal interest, national interest, and then from the eyes of the law. I'm going to bring in Izumuna Nkim Dilim Lilian, who is from the Faculty of Law, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, the member of the Advocates Movement, and also Obu Esther. She's also from the University of Nigeria. The young people who are trying to help other young people understand, their rights when it comes to issues and protection of their rights as in general as Nigerians. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies. It's good to have you on the program.
We're glad to be here.
All right, getting to it quickly, let's talk about, let's begin to understand what it is that young people need to know in this time. The election is just about 4 days away. The 2023 election that is much awaited. Young people make up the larger population who are going to be going to cast their votes. As it is, one of the reasons given for the Naira redesign and the cash swap policy is to curb vote buying. Help us understand what is your position, especially concerning young people in all of this situation that we're seeing. We're seeing about 13 people lose their lives, young people as well lose their lives as a result of all of this cash squeeze in the last few days. Yes, go ahead. What are your thoughts on the issue?
Okay, we actually have a sequence on how we wanted to, discuss this topic, but you're taking us a bit further. Like you rightly said, people are actually agitating against the whole change in cash and how it has affected their rights to trade, movement, and all of that. So in all of these things, young people are not actually excluded. They have been affected in every way. If I'm to draw an example from the school environment, many of us can't even get what to eat, not because we don't have money per se, but just because there's no cash in circulation. So it's affecting us. And then with regards to the election, most people polling units is nowhere close to Enugu, where my school is, for instance. So there's a question of, are we really going to travel back home to cast our votes? There's this issue of this cash policy thing has actually affected our right to vote. The Constitution actually provides, by virtue of Section 117 sub 2, that those who are up to the age of 18 years can exercise their rights to franchise. But with the whole cash policy thing, we don't have money to do anything. How do we even get to our polling units? So by implication, we've been disenfranchised by design. So this thing has really affected us to a very large extent. And like you rightly pointed out, we form the majority of those who are actually going to cast our votes. So if we don't get to participate in this election process, we need to be considered as a free and fair election. So these are the issues.
You just mentioned that you may not be able to exercise your franchise because you may not be able to travel. I understand that the NUC has ordered the universities to shut down. And are you telling me as a young person that you don't know how to use the mobile apps to make transactions for you to be able to travel if you have to? Because I know that there are several buses and all that's accept bookings online. So how about what's stopping you?
Indeed there are, but these things are, limited. Not everybody accepts. Not everybody wants to accept transactions like that. And some people are even scared of the whole fake alert thing. So you can't easily just say, oh, I'll pack my bags, and once I get to the park, I'm assured, or I'll book online. Sometimes the mobile banking app is not even functional the way it ought to be. There are so many banks that are having issues this period. So if you're saying, okay, let's resort to the whole transfer thing, how feasible is this whole process? do you actually get to use the mobile banking app the way it ought to be used? There are other countries who have gone ahead of us and they don't even have any issue with online transactions. In fact, they prefer to use online transactions, but that is not the case in Nigeria. So people have to wake up as early as 12 a.m., just to access their mobile banking app. Not even to go out there to queue, just to access the mobile banking app, because there's always network issue.
I'm looking at your argument that says you have been disenfranchised. I don't think so, because first of all, if school was in session, I don't think that if you needed to travel, you would go. Because most students wouldn't want to even travel when school is in session. So the federal government provides an avenue for you to be able to exercise your franchise by instructing the NUC or the NUC giving that order to universities to shut down for you to be able to participate. Secondly, there were options for you to transfer your PVCs to closer destinations to where you were going to be during the elections. If you didn't take that option and transfer your polling units to where was closest to you, would you say that someone disenfranchised you or you disenfranchised yourself?
It's one thing to say that there's policy on ground or there are laws on ground. Then the other thing is, can it be implemented? When I went to my to the place where I was supposed to register, the struggle to even get into the gate to do your registration was a very big issue. We had to sleep there on some occasions. We had to stay there from morning till evening just to make sure that we are registered. And most times when you ask the INEC officials in charge to, put your polling unit somewhere outside the state, some of them are skeptical. They're like, why won't you vote within the state? And you get to explain that, I may not be around when the election is to commence. I may be in school and all of that. But they don't even want to give you audience most times. So yes, there might be policies on ground, but to what extent are they being implemented? Do people actually follow these things? I was talking to one of my colleagues in school here, and I asked her, why didn't you put your polling units in Enugu since you know that we're going to be in school around that time? She told me that when she asked the INEC officials there to register her here in Enugu, they refused. They even said that there was no polling units in Enugu, an obvious lie. So these are the issues. It's not about having these policies on ground. To what extent are they being implemented? Do people actually follow this due process? So that is why, to a very large extent, I am of the opinion, anybody can, argue otherwise, that we've been disenfranchised to a very large extent. To a very large extent, people have been disenfranchised, and people are even scared of how the road is going to be like, security issues and all. Since people are desperate in times like this, people would want to do anything just to make sure that they access cash. Are the roads even safe? So these are the issues.
So your argument is that the cashless policy or the Naira redesign has disenfranchised you. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, at the moment, if you as a young person who has access to online banking, who probably has been using this for quite a while, is complaining about the situation, what then would be the fate of the ordinary Nigerian who may not have been very acquainted with the online or e-banking? I'll bring in callers and then we'll get to talk about this some more. The numbers to call 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Yanato.
Good morning, Okichuku.
Thank you. She's very, very correct.
Okay.
She just said 100% of what will happen in this election. Because many people will be disfranchised. Many people will not travel. Like me, I want to travel to Anambra State. Where is the money? I want to travel to go and vote, but where is the money? How will I do it now? Tell me, Yanato. You see, this policy is just for Nigerians. For them not to vote. I'm telling you the truth. Because you cannot just come at the time minute and bring out this kind of policy. Nigerians want to vote, but now anywhere you go, they cash. Well, some people are not receiving transfer. Even if you do the transfer, it will take sometimes the whole day, not going to their last. Honestly, to me, the federal government should please rethink. Because assuming they obey the Supreme Court, I bet you all these things will not be happening. You are a federal government, you need to obey your own court that you keep. The highest court in the land, you disobey the court. Honestly, and people are saying they are doing the right thing. No. honestly, if they obey the court,
All right.
honestly, we come down, people will see money and travel. Me, I want to
All
go
right,
to.
Okechuku.
I
All
want
right,
to vote.
Okechuku, good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's bring in another caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
This is Mr. Frederick calling from Suleja.
I didn't get your name again. Sorry, say again, please.
My name is Mr. Frederick.
Mr. Frederick, good to have you.
Okay. My contribution, I listened to this lady speaking with online. Most time we take issues for granted. Yes, she have a point, but we must, one of the important features God has given to us is the ability to think ahead. And having studied the situation, or when you're in an environment, you try to know what is obtainable in that environment and know how to be ahead of the situation. So some of us Nigerians, we just we feel relaxed concerning some issues. Then at the dying minute, we are crying foul. You see, the government has to be playing, but with the citizenry, what role are we playing to ensure that things get better? So that's my optic.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick. Let's bring in one more caller before we get back with my guest. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Friday, calling from Cuba. So happy New Week.
Friday, I wish you the same. Good to have you. Let's hear you.
Yeah, God bless you. God bless you, my brother. I don't know the concerning election. I don't know how the election is going to be, because a lot of people don't want to travel the way they travel and they are planning for the card to go and vote. And this morning they are not they have to travel. But I don't know. I don't know. But supposed to run improve this. So that it's supposed to be like ATM. Anywhere you hide in this country, they can draw your money. So the same way it's supposed to be without this the exercise. So they can be in Abuja, very to get the food. We don't say the way it is a time that the people went there for south and south, they used to travel, but now nobody is traveling. How they are going to allow people to be able to go on foot? And what I see that what is going to happen, because a lot of people they cannot be able to go on foot because the way it happened, that they're looking for money, they're looking for cash, they're looking for cash. There's not an election. Now why the last strategy is going to be. So this government, they're not nobody to everybody promise us be this. So it's supposed to leave us alone with our money.
Okay.
So thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Friday. I'm going to bring in one more caller before I get to you. Just hold on a little. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. God bless you, sir.
Taking me. Good morning.
Yes, God bless all your guests.
Glad to
yes,
hear you.
This is Hundu. Yes, calling from Kubo. My prince. Yes, my prince. You see, I stand with Erofai and Co. Because this policy is anti-people. It's anti-masses. It's anti-economy. It will collapse businesses. India tried this, in 2016, and it took them about 2 years to get out of it. And the Minister of Finance was like, "Oh, Emefe was going to do this, and she is not aware." Because if Nigeria goes into recession, she will be part of it, or those that will bring the country out of recession. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
So she'll be part of it. So this policy for me is anti-masses, anti-economy, and and everything. People are dying, businesses are dying. Like now, my sister, she needs money for drugs, she cannot get it.
All right, we lost connection with taking me there. Now, Esther, let me come to you, Esther. At this point, what do you want? Because one of the reasons and one evidence of the positives of this Naira redesign is around fighting insecurity as well. And the last couple of weeks, we've seen the level of killings and kidnappings in the country, across the country, reduced drastically. Putting that in mind, what would you want the federal government at this time to do, considering the fact that we're just 4 days away from the polls?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so going by what the Constitution says in Section 14 of the Constitution, it states that the security and the welfare of the people should be the primary purpose of the government. So on the basis of this, the government can come up with policies that they feel would drive towards this goal of securing the the citizenry and their welfare. However, when the government comes up with these policies, they should not just look at the long-term effect, they should also look at the short-term effect. Now, this cash redesign policy is centered towards reducing cash in circulation, reduce curbing corruption, and all of these practices. However, the short-term effect, what we are seeing right now, doesn't look like this is the picture. I mean, the picture we're seeing right now doesn't look anything like what the goal is. And right now, this is a very dicey season in Nigeria. This is the election season. People need to. Beyond that, there's also the problem of the fuel scarcity. So all of these, and with this, it's creating, Nigeria is looking more like in a boiling pot than this whole the whole goal and everything. It looks so bleak. Everything that the CBN governor has said, okay, this is the goal. It looks so bleak, judging from what is happening. So what I feel the governor or the government should do right now is we should take a step back, go back to what is our goal? Is our goal just to reduce the design, or is our goal the welfare and the security of the people? The people should come first. Whenever the government is making any decision, the people should come
well,
first.
Isn't the government putting the people first, considering the fact that, this is for their security, this is for their well-being as well. This is to curb corruption and also make sure that the 2023 election is free, fair, credible, and transparent. Wouldn't that be in the interest of the people? Secondly, or again, the president has appealed to Nigerians and also said, look, let's have the old 200 naira notes back in circulation, and saying, look, this short-term problems that we're facing will be over in a short while. I don't know if you heard the president yesterday where he said, look, Nigerians, I understand the pain, I understand that's a hardship, but I plead that you have, exercise some patience. Is that too much to ask of the people who this all of this, the president says, is in their interest?
Okay, I understand that, but the last hope of the common man, which is the judiciary, has already, through the Supreme Court, given a ruling that the old notes should continue. It should be in circulation. It should go, it should continue being in circulation with the new one. However, His Excellency came up and just said, just the 200 naira. This is just in defiance of the judiciary, which is the last hope of the common man. And this doesn't sit well with the citizenry. I mean, this is a democratic government. It should be what the people want. It should be what the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And right now, it's not looking like this policy is for the people.
Well, we haven't seen Nigerian citizens joining in the suit to say, well, we support. It just feels like it's the governors of their states who actually they say represent the interest, they represent the interest of the people, but we haven't seen Nigerians saying we want to join in this suit. Perhaps you want to join in the suit and say, you know what, as Nigerians who are concerned, who are worried, who are affected by this policy, we want to join in this suit.
Okay, that is also true, but I think people are not aware of this. Goes back to the fact that a lot of people are not aware of their rights to do this. A lot of people do not know that, okay, I have a right to go to the court and say, okay, this has affected me in these and that ways, and so the government should go back to the drawing board and look out for the problems in these policies and try to bring a balance to it. I think the issue is that people do not really know their rights, and since the governments are the ones bringing up these suits, they are the representation of the government. The government is the representation of the people, and so if they are bringing up these suits, let's just say it's for the benefit of the people, and the federal government should go back to the drawing board and look at all these things, go through these things again, and then come back with something that will be fair for the people.
Well, we've been talking with members of the Advocates Movement of the University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. They say, well, their right to vote may have been undermined by this cash swap or the currency redesign policy of the federal government. And so they're lending their voice to the conversation this morning. Let's bring in a caller quickly as we wrap up the conversation. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right, you may want to call us back. Let's bring in this one. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Okwi. You have 1 minute to make your submission, please.
I agree to your guest. issue of design of note. Me, I stand with MFL. No going back.
Okay.
Because it will help to the constitution things, especially as we are approaching election. If you go to Kaduna State, somebody like El-Rufai that took federal government to court. El-Rufai don't have a moral right to take a federal government to court. El-Rufai, they have been killing in southern Kaduna. He didn't take a federal government to court. Every day by day. Somebody like El Zazaki, court say leave him. He is domain as the governor. He didn't take federal government to court. Somebody like the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, court has said leave Nnamdi Kanu. And El-Rufai as the governor of Kaduna State, and is the member of ruling APC. He didn't take a federal government to court. The issue of scarcity of fuel. Nigerians are suffering because of increasing of fuel and the scarcity of it. El-Rufai, he didn't take a federal government to court.
All right, okay.
Why not? Because he have them in quantity in a warehouse. I don't know what they are going to take.
Okay, how are you sure of that? I don't
they
know.
have Ghana in warehouse.
Provide
That's
evidence. Provide evidence of that before you come on air to say anything like that. Thank you very much, Okwi. I would let you go now. And our clock is in the ceiling. I'll give you 1 minute or less than that, 30 seconds, Lillian, to wrap up your thoughts on the conversation quickly as we're about to go.
Okay. I think this is the conclusion of the whole matter. The rationale behind the whole currency change, there are very good reasons to curb corruption, to stop inflation and all of that. But the government should also put into consideration the fact that its citizens are suffering as a result. And then I think what the government ought to do at this point is to actually obey the Supreme Court's order with respect to suspension of that February 10 deadline. Circulation of old currency. Let the old currency still be in circulation so people can have access to their basic needs.
Okay, and that's where a good place to end the conversation this morning. Ezumunna Nkemdelem Lillian, as well as Ubu Esther of the University of Nigeria and Nsukka Faculty of Law Advocates Movement. Thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We appreciate your time and thoughts on the program. Thank you again. And well, Nigerians again would ask that you would exercise a little patience, a little more patience. Some people have said, look, in the next few days, this administration will be over. The counting days to May 29, when the life of this administration would have elapsed. So maybe we'll just exercise a little more patience and see how things play out. Do not, on account of this, pick up arms or engage in any form of violence. Please respect and protect the interest of Nigeria. As we go to the polls, there's so many things that people have said. We would not allow any of those things to come to pass. We would ensure that Nigeria remains one united, indivisible entity, and we ensure that the process is a good one that would provide us good leadership going forward. My name is Ihanacho Prince. Business News is up next. Keep up with us.
102.3 Abuja.
This is Eagles 102.3 News, your number one radio experience you can count on.